Have you ever wondered how wise elders find strength in loneliness? Do you question if living with resilience, mindfulness, and joy in your golden age is truly possible? And what if the secrets to thriving and embracing the wisdom of this journey have been within your grasp all along? In the next few moments, I'll share how I joined the ranks of wise elders, turned solitude into connection, and found purpose in the simple joys of life. If you're ready to step into your golden age with strength and meaning, stay with me. You won't want to miss this. I never thought I'd find myself in this position, alone, trying to navigate life after Sarah's passing. The first few weeks felt unbearable. Once, filled with her laughter and warmth, the house now echoed with silence. I'd wake up in the morning, sit at the edge of my bed, and ask myself, what's the point of getting up? The quietness was overwhelming, a constant reminder of her absence. I remember walking into the kitchen one day and seeing the empty chair where she used to sit with her morning coffee. That chair became a symbol of my loneliness. My children, Emma and David, would call occasionally, but their busy lives meant they couldn't visit as often as I hoped. I didn't blame them. Life moves on for everyone. But I felt left behind, stuck in a loop of memories. One day, while cleaning the living room, I stumbled upon an old photo album. Flipping through the pages, I was hit by waves of nostalgia, but also a profound realization. Sarah wouldn't have wanted me to live like this, drifting aimlessly, consumed by sorrow. She always said, "Arthur, life is meant to be lived, even when it's hard. Even when it's hard." Thinking of her, I slowly realized this was true. That was the moment I made a decision. I could either let loneliness consume me or take steps to create a new life. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was necessary. I started small, making my bed every morning, taking short walks around the neighborhood, and even talking to my neighbors when I had the chance. Slowly, I began to see that life could still hold meaning, even in Sarah's absence. It was the start of a journey I never thought I'd have to take, but one that taught me the value of resilience and strength. I still remember the first time I walked into the local community center. It was a cold Tuesday morning and my nerves were as raw as the biting wind outside. My footsteps echoed in the large hallway as I glanced around, unsure of where to go or what to do. The room was buzzing with chatter and laughter, but it felt like a language I had forgotten. I felt like a stranger in a foreign land. I almost turned back that day. My mind was racing with doubts. What am I doing here? I don't belong in a place like this. But just as I reached the door, a woman with a warm smile approached me. "Hello, I'm Margaret," she said, extending her hand. Her voice had a kindness that immediately put me at ease. She introduced herself as a regular at the painting class and encouraged me to join. "Even if you don't think you're an artist," she said, "you might surprise yourself." With a mixture of hesitation and curiosity, I followed her to the painting room. It was filled with people, all busy at their easels, mixing colors and chatting as if they had known each other for years. Margaret handed me a blank canvas and a brush. "Start with anything," she said. "Even a single brush stroke can change everything." At first I felt clumsy, my hands unsure of what to create. But as I dipped the brush into a vibrant blue and began to paint, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't about creating a masterpiece, it was about the act of doing, of trying, of being present in that moment. Margaret was right. Even one small step could change so much. As weeks turned into months, the community center became my sanctuary. I started attending regularly, not just for the painting class, but also for the conversations and connections that came with it. Margaret became more than just a classmate. She became a confidant. We'd share stories over coffee after class, her tales of raising 3 sons, and my memories of Sarah and our children. There was a mutual understanding, a shared recognition of the challenges and joys that came with aging. Through Margaret, I met others who quickly became friends. There was Paul, who shared my love for gardening, and Lisa, who taught me how to make pottery. Each person brought something unique to my life, and for the first time in years, I felt part of a community again. I wasn't alone anymore. One day, during a particularly lively session, Margaret looked at me and said, "Arthur, you've changed." At first, I didn't understand what she meant, but as I thought about it later, I realized she was right. The isolation and despair that had once defined my days were slowly being replaced by laughter, purpose, and connection. The community center had given me more than just activities. It had given me back a sense of belonging. Exercise. Margaret's words stayed with me. It's never too late to start anew. That idea became my mantra, something I carried with me not just in the painting room, but in every aspect of my life. It reminded me that life, no matter how uncertain or lonely it might feel, always offers opportunities for change and growth, if we're brave enough to reach for them. Looking back, that cold Tuesday morning when I hesitated at the community center's door was a turning point. It wasn't just about finding new connections, it was about finding myself again. The friendships I formed there didn't just fill my days, they filled my heart, and for that, I'll always be grateful. One of the hardest realizations I had as I got older was how vulnerable I felt. After Sarah passed, I began to worry about things I hadn't thought much about before: finances, health, and whether I would become a burden to my children. It wasn't just fear, it was a wake-up call. I realized that I needed to take control, not just for myself, but for my peace of mind. The first thing I tackled was my finances. I had savings from my years as a manager, but I wasn't sure how far it would take me. I sat down one evening with a notebook and started listing all my monthly expenses: food, utilities, medication, and a little extra for things I enjoyed, like the occasional dinner out or buying art supplies for my painting class. It was eye-opening to see it all laid out. I realized I needed a better system to manage it. I reached out to a financial advisor who specialized in working with retirees. She helped me create a budget that worked for my lifestyle and suggested a few changes. For instance, I consolidated some old accounts and found a Medicare plan that covered more of my medical needs. I also learned about local senior discounts and community programs that offer free or reduced cost services. These little adjustments made a big difference. Suddenly, I wasn't worrying about every dollar spent. I felt secure. Health was the next thing on my list. I've always considered myself fairly healthy, but aging has a way of reminding you that nothing lasts forever. Sarah used to say, "Your health is your wealth," and those words stuck with me. I decided to start small. Every morning I'd put on my sneakers and take a short walk around the neighborhood. At first it was just 10 minutes, but as the days went by I found myself enjoying it, and I learned to cram a lot more walking in. The fresh air, the sound of birds chirping, and the movement cleared my mind and made me feel alive. Walking became a gateway to other changes. I started paying more attention to my diet. I swapped out the sugary snacks I'd grown fond of for fruits and nuts. I even tried yoga for seniors at the community center. I'll admit, I was skeptical at first. The idea of bending and stretching in a room full of strangers didn't appeal to me. But Margaret convinced me to try it, and I'm glad she did. It wasn't just about flexibility, it taught me mindfulness, the ability to focus on the present moment without worrying about the past or future. My changes didn't happen overnight, but each step built on the last. I began to feel a sense of empowerment. Managing my finances and health wasn't just about survival, but was about reclaiming my independence. I didn't want to rely solely on my children or feel like I was a burden to them. Instead, I wanted to be someone they could look up to, even in my later years. One of the most reassuring things I discovered was the network of resources available for seniors. I found programs that provided free health screenings, workshops on managing chronic conditions, and even social activities that kept me engaged. Knowing that I wasn't navigating this alone gave me a sense of community and support. Looking back, taking control of my finances and health wasn't just a practical decision, but an emotional one. It gave me the confidence to face whatever challenges lay ahead. It reminded me that aging isn't about losing assets. It's about adapting, finding new ways to thrive, and making the most of the time we have. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: preparation is power. Whether it's your finances or your health, taking control is the first step toward living with dignity and peace of mind. It's not about avoiding the inevitable. It's about facing it head on and saying, "I'm ready." Margaret's departure hit me harder than I expected. She had become such an integral part of my days, her laughter, her stories, her constant encouragement. When she told me she was moving to live with her son, I nodded and said all the right things. "That's wonderful, and I'm so happy for you." But inside, it felt like another part of my life was being taken away. The first few weeks after Margaret left were tough. I'd walk into the community center, see her empty chair in the painting room, and feel a pang of loneliness all over again. It reminded me of how I felt after Sarah passed. This overwhelming sense of loss, as though the world had shifted once more, leaving me to catch my balance. But this time I approached it differently. I remembered what Margaret had said to me during one of our coffee chats. "Arthur, life isn't about holding on to what's gone. It's about cherishing what you had and using it to move forward." Those words stuck with me. They became a sort of mantra, something I repeated to myself on the harder days. To honor the connections I had, both with Sarah and with Margaret, I decided to start a new ritual. Every Sunday morning, I'd brew myself a cup of tea, sit by the window, and open my journal. I began writing down memories, not just the big ones, but the small, seemingly insignificant moments that brought me joy. Like the way Sarah used to aha while cooking, or how Margaret always insisted on adding a touch of yellow to her paintings because she said it brought them to life. At first, it felt like a task, something I had to push myself to do. But as the weeks went by, it became something I looked forward to. It wasn't just about remembering, it was about keeping those connections alive in my own way. Each memory I wrote down felt like a thread, weaving a tapestry of my life that was rich, colorful, and full of meaning. One Sunday, as I was writing, I came across a photo of Sarah and me from our honeymoon. We were sitting on a beach, laughing about something I can no longer remember. For the first time in years, I didn't feel sadness looking at that photo. I felt gratitude. Gratitude for the time we had together, for the love we shared, and for the memories that would always be mine to hold. I also started sharing some of these stories with my children. During our phone calls, I'd tell them about the little things, how their mother used to dance in the living room when no one was watching, or how Margaret had taught me to mix colors in a way that made my paintings brighter. It brought us closer in a way I hadn't expected. Emma even said, "Dad, I love hearing these stories. It makes me feel like I know Mom and your life so much better." Through this process, I realized that cherishing memories isn't about living in the past. It's about letting those memories enrich the present. They became a source of strength, a reminder that even though people may leave, the impact they have on us stays. How can I honor the loss during the pandemic? How can I do justice to the people who have lost both? Another thing I did was take a walk through the park Sarah and I used to visit. It was fall, and the trees were ablaze with color. I sat on our favorite bench, the one overlooking the pond, and let myself feel everything: the loss, the love, the gratitude. It was a bittersweet moment, but also a healing one. I realized that the bench wasn't just a place of memories. It was a place where I could come and reflect, draw strength, and find peace. Margaret may have moved away, but her words stayed with me. Life keeps moving, Arthur, and so should you. I've taken that advice to heart. Losing someone doesn't mean losing everything they gave you. The love, the lessons, the laughter, they remain. And they shape who you are moving forward. Now, every time I pick up my paintbrush or sit down to write in my journal, I feel connected, not just to Sarah and Margaret, but to all the people and moments that have made my life meaningful. It's a reminder that even in loss, there's so much to cherish, so much to celebrate. Looking back, I see how these rituals and reflections have helped me embrace not just the losses in my life, but the gifts those losses left behind. And that, to me, is the most profound lesson of all. Life isn't just about holding on. It's about letting go in a way that lets you grow. I never thought I'd find joy again in the simple things. For a long time after Sarah passed, the little moments that once brought me happiness felt hollow. The morning sun streaming through the curtains, the chirping of birds outside my window, these were things I barely noticed. My world had shrunk, consumed by grief and the heavy weight of loneliness. But over time, I began to see things differently. It started with small steps. One morning, as I was sipping my tea on the porch, I noticed a group of children playing in the park across the street. Their laughter was infectious, filling the air with a kind of energy I hadn't felt in years. I smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. It was a small moment, but it stirred something inside me. It reminded me that life, even in its simplest forms, could still hold beauty. I began paying attention to the little things around me. The way the leaves rustled in the wind created a soothing melody. The warm glow of the sun as it dipped below the horizon. The first sip of hot tea on a chilly morning. These were moments I had taken for granted, but now they felt like gifts. I realized that happiness doesn't have to come from grand gestures or big events. It can be found in the quiet, unassuming details of everyday life. One of the most transformative experiences came through painting. Margaret, my friend from the community center, had encouraged me to join a painting class. At first, I was hesitant. "I'm no artist," I told her. But she insisted, saying, "It's not about the result, Arthur. It's about the process." Reluctantly, I picked up a brush and started painting. My first piece was nothing spectacular. A simple landscape with a few trees and a blue sky. But as I painted, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The act of mixing colors, of brushing strokes onto the canvas, became a form of meditation. It allowed me to focus, to be present, and to let go of my worries, even if just for a while. That class became a weekly ritual. Each time I grew a little more confident, experimenting with colors and textures. Painting wasn't just an activity. It was a way for me to express myself, to channel my emotions into something tangible. And with every completed piece, I felt a sense of accomplishment. It wasn't about creating a masterpiece. It was about the journey, about rediscovering a part of myself I thought I'd lost. Another source of joy came from my garden. Sarah had always loved gardening, and after she passed, I couldn't bring myself to tend to it. The once vibrant flowers had wilted, and the soil had grown dry and cracked. But one afternoon, as I was sitting in the yard, I decided to give it another try. I started small, planting a few roses, Sarah's favorite. There was something deeply therapeutic about working with the soil, about nurturing life and watching it grow. The first time I saw those roses bloom, I felt an overwhelming sense of connection to Sarah. It was as if, through the garden, she was still with me, encouraging me to keep going. Even mundane tasks became opportunities for joy. Folding laundry, cooking a simple meal, organizing my bookshelf. These were chores I once dreaded, but now I approached them with a new mindset. I turned on some music, allowed myself to get lost in the rhythm of the task, and found satisfaction in completing it. It was a reminder that even the smallest accomplishments could bring a sense of fulfillment. One of my favorite rituals became my morning walks. Every day, rain or shine, I'd put on my sneakers and head out into the neighborhood. The fresh air, the gentle exercise, the familiar sights and sounds. It was a routine that grounded me. I'd greet my neighbors, watch the world wake up around me, and feel a sense of belonging, even if it was just in my little corner of the world. These simple pleasures taught me a profound lesson. Happiness doesn't have to be complicated. It's not about chasing after big dreams or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about being present, about finding beauty in the here and now. It's about appreciating the things we often overlook: the warmth of a blanket, the scent of fresh flowers, the laughter of a stranger. Looking back, I realize how much these small moments have enriched my life. They've reminded me that even in the face of loss, there is still so much to be grateful for. They've shown me that joy isn't something you find, it's something you create. And most importantly, they've taught me that life, even in its simplest form, is worth cherishing. As I sit here reflecting on my journey, I realize how much I've learned, not just about life, but about myself. Aging, I've discovered, is as much about growth as it is about change. It's a chapter where every experience, every loss, and every joy shapes us into wiser, more resilient versions of ourselves. The first and perhaps most important lesson I've learned is the power of acknowledging your feelings. For the longest time, I tried to suppress my grief after Sarah's passing. I thought being strong meant not showing how much I was hurting. But the truth is, strength isn't about hiding your pain. It's about confronting it. There were days when I'd sit on the edge of my bed and let the tears flow. And you know what? It helped. It was like releasing a pressure valve, allowing me to breathe a little easier and think a little clearer. Another lesson I've learned is the importance of building connections. It wasn't easy for me to walk into that community center for the first time. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and completely out of my element. But taking that step changed everything. I met people like Margaret, who showed me that even a single conversation can spark a friendship. I realized that loneliness doesn't just fade away. You have to actively work to fill its void, and connections are the best way to do that. Planning and preparation have also become cornerstones of my journey. Aging gracefully, I've found, requires a certain level of pragmatism. I made it a priority to organize my finances, ensuring I wouldn't have to depend on my children for support. I learned about Medicare and local programs designed for seniors, and I took steps to make my health a priority. Morning walks, balanced meals, and yoga sessions may seem like small efforts, but they've added up to a healthier, happier me. One of the more unexpected lessons has been about cherishing the present. For years, I lived either in the past, replaying old memories, or in the future, worrying about what was to come. But through painting, gardening, and writing, I've learned to live in the moment. There's a certain magic in watching a flower bloom or finishing a brushstroke on a canvas. These small, everyday victories remind me that life is happening now, and it's up to me to make the most of it. I've also learned that resilience is a skill, one that grows stronger each time you face adversity. Losing Margaret was a stark reminder of how fragile connections can be, but it also reinforced the idea that every relationship, no matter how fleeting, adds value to our lives. Her words, "Life keeps moving, Arthur, and so should you," has become a guiding principle for me. They remind me that it's okay to let go, as long as you carry forward the lessons and love from those you've lost. Lastly, I've come to understand that aging isn't about giving up, it's about transforming. There's a quote I once read that said, "The tree that bends in the wind is stronger than the one that resists." That image has stayed with me. Aging teaches you to be flexible, to adapt to new realities, and to find beauty in the changes. If there's one thing I want people to take away from my story, it's this. Life doesn't stop because you've grown old. It transforms, and so can you. It's never too late to start something new, to build connections, or to find joy in the simple things. Whether it's picking up a paintbrush, planting a garden, or simply sitting in the morning sun with a cup of tea, there's always a way to bring light into your life. As I write this, I'm filled with gratitude, not just for the lessons I've learned, but for the journey itself. Every challenge I've faced has brought me here, to a place of peace, purpose, and resilience. And if I can find that, I truly believe anyone can. If you're watching this and feeling like life has left you behind, remember this: you are not alone. Every day is a new chance. A chance to take that first step, to reach out, to rediscover joy in the small things, and to embrace the wisdom that comes with your golden age. Aging isn't an ending, it's a beginning, filled with opportunities to grow, connect, and thrive. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start living. Start now, no matter how small the step. Your journey is yours to create, and I promise, it's worth it. If this story resonates with you, I invite you to join our community. Hit the subscribe button below and turn on notifications so you never miss a video filled with insights, encouragement, and lessons for thriving in your golden years. And don't forget to leave a comment, share your thoughts, your struggles, or your victories. Let's inspire one another, one story at a time.